What's up guys, TopTierYugioh here, and today I'm going to have a Paleozoic deck profile, and I really got inspired to do this after making the top 10 non-Zoodiac decks. I really realized how good Paleos are and that I haven't played them in a while, and I want to share with you guys the build that I came up with. So let's go ahead and get into the profile. Again, Paleos I think are a really strong non-Zoodiac deck, they're very fun, and they're going to be good moving into the future as well. So let's start with the monsters. This is a 42 card deck, only 13 monsters, 3 spells, 26 traps. And we have 3 swap frogs, 3 dupe frogs, and 2 Ronin totems. This is just your standard frog lineup, but they're all very good to have, and they're all very necessary for making your rank 2s and just getting your engine going, especially swap frog. Then we play 5 hand traps. We play 2 ghost ash, 2 ghost ogres, and 1 max C. I was really considering playing more, but then ultimately you want like more traps instead of like too many hand traps. You already have a lot of defense with 80% of your deck being traps, but you also need a few hand traps just in case you do go second, and you're already going to go second in some games, and you just don't want to jump into the games cold turkey with no sort of hand traps or board wipes. And so these definitely help to a certain extent. For the spell cards, we only play 3. We have 2 Pot of Desires and then 1 Soul Charge. I know some builds play 3 Pot of Desires, but I only want to play 2 because it is once per turn, and then it also banishes a lot of your resources in the deck, and so if you banish like a Ronin totem, that really hurts. Or if you banish a lot of your Paleo cards, again, that can be really painful sometimes. And so I didn't want to max out on Pot of Desires, albeit it is a very powerful card. And then I did want to play 1 Soul Charge because it's a really good recovery play, and a lot of times you're not going to be like killing your opponent anyways. Like, you're not going to be making huge pushes when your battle phase, so it's fine to give that up. You're not paying life points for many other cards in the deck outside of Solemns or Imperial Order. So I really liked Soul Charge as like a late game push, or even just early game, helping you get maybe like 1 extra Toad. It's always pretty nice. So Soul Charge has been a very nice addition to the deck. So for the trap cards, once again we do have 26 of them, so a lot of traps. But first we have 3 Paleozoic Olenoides, and this is like your MST of the deck. It's very good against True Dracos. You can hit the diagram, you can hit the True Draco Speller traps. It's just pretty good in general. I mean, hitting Barrage is always nice. Next we have 3 Dinomisschus, which is the Karma Cut. You can banish rats, which is pretty good. Next we have 3 Canadia, which is the Book of Moon. Really good for flipping Zoodiac monsters face down so that they can't exist on top of them. But just in general, I think this is probably my favorite one. It's the most versatile. Flipping monsters face down is, it's huge. It just renders them useless for a turn. Although it doesn't banish them like Dinomisschus does, you can generally get rid of them on your next turn. Because the problem with Dinomisschus is that it has to discard, and so you have to leave something in your hand in order to discard. So if you open Dinomisschus and 4 other traps, you actually can't set those 4 other traps because you need something to discard. But if you draw Canadia and 4 other traps, then you're good. Then for the one of Paleozoics cards, we have 1 Marella, which sends a trap card from your deck to the graveyard. Really good for getting breakthrough skill in the graveyard or Lost Wind. And then we have 1 Leancholia. And this is something I was sort of in the fence on. I wanted another Paleo card, but I think this one's okay. And you can return a banished card to the graveyard, including something that you would banish a Pot of Desires. So that's really neat. You can also put toads back in your, or frogs back in your graveyard if you banish them with the Ronin totem. So it has some neat interactions more or less, but it kind of keeps you from auto losing off Desire sometimes. But it's good. It's another name. Next we have 2 Floodgate Trap Holes. Again, I really like Floodgate Trap Hole because it flips that monster face down. It can also do this to multiple monsters. So it's great when your opponent has a Soul Charge, or if they're playing Magicians and they pendulum summon a bunch of stuff, you can flip them all face down. This is actually a flex spot, and so this was probably the last 2 traps that I added to the deck, but these could definitely be something else. If you have any other suggestions on what they could be, definitely leave them in the comment section below, because this is really more of like a personal choice. Like, I had 2 Floodgate Trap Holes and thought it would be a good addition to the deck, so that's why they're in here. So next we have 2 Lost Winds, and Lost Wind is really, really good. You target a face-up special summon monster, its effect is negated and its attack is halved, and that's permanent, which is insane. And then also, if your opponent special summons a monster from the extra deck while it's in the graveyard, you can set it onto your side of the field. And so every time you get a Lost Wind, you're getting 2 uses out of it, which is crazy. And you can also put this back with Leancholia once it gets banished after using the graveyard effect. You can put breakthrough skills back. So again, Leancholia's decent pick. But 2 Lost Winds though, definitely a very strong card. I was thinking about playing 3, but I just didn't think it was that good enough against Zoodiacs. Like, it's good. It does permanently negate monsters, and it does come back from the graveyard, but it doesn't stop them from just summoning on top of that monster. So it's like, if they summon a Broadbow and I want to negate the effect, fine, they just summon a Drident. Or if they use a Drident and I negate it, fine, they just overlay on top of the Drident on their next turn if I can't get rid of it. Or like, it doesn't stop the problem, it doesn't flip it face down or remove it from the board. And so that's why ultimately I didn't want to play 3 Lost Winds. Next we have 1 Breakthrough Skill. I think Breakthrough Skill is necessary at 1, it helps you deal with Dridents or other quick effect monsters on your turn, and in general it's just a very strong card. Next we have 3-dimensional barriers, 2 anti-spell fragrances which have been very good because so many decks rely on using spell cards versus this deck only having 3. So like Zoodiacs, you're slowing down their barrages, you're slowing down their my bodies, or pretty much any of that crap that they play. If they're playing 2 Dracozu, you're stopping their diagrams as well. If they're playing Magicians, well, I mean they just straight up lose to this card, but you know, this is a very strong card in most matchups right now. So it's definitely worth being in the main deck if you can main it. Next we have 1 Imperial Order because it's sort of a very similar card. Stopping spell card is extremely powerful. And then finally we have 3 Solemn Strikes and 1 Solemn Warning, which doesn't really need too much explanation. Now if you've seen any of my other recent deck profiles, you've seen that I am a big fan of Solemn Scolding. But the reason you don't play Solemn Scolding in this deck is obviously because you have so many other trap cards. So Scolding doesn't really work as well in this deck. So for the extra deck, first we have 2 Paleozoic Opabinia. And Opabinia is definitely the best extra deck monster. I know a lot of people think that Toadally Awesome is what makes this deck work, but that is not true. Once you make Opabinia, the deck becomes so much easier to play. You just start snowballing all of your XYZ monsters. It's insane. So like once you see Opabinia, that's when you need to start worrying. Toadally Awesome isn't as bad, but Opabinia is just insane. The fact that it's unaffected by monster effects, and then you can also activate traps from your hand, and then search them too. I mean, Opabinia is insane. Next we have 2 Anomalocaris, another just ridiculous card. Like Opabinia, it's unaffected by monster effects. And if a trap is sent from your spell or trap card zone to the graveyard, you can excavate the top card of your deck, and if it's a trap, you add it to your hand. Otherwise you send it to the graveyard, but that's fine. Because essentially most of your deck is traps, and so you're going to be adding traps to your hand. So every time you play a trap, you pretty much add a trap to your hand, which is crazy. And then it has a quick effect where you detach and destroy a card on the field. So it's objectively better than Drident because it can target face up or face down cards. It has more attack than Drident, unaffected by monster effects, and it has the excavation effect too. So Anomalocaris is just like better than Drident. So I think how good Drident is in the format, and then this is just 10 times better. And so that's just crazy to imagine. So next we have 3 Toadally Awesomes, and although Toad isn't as good as Opabinia and Anomalocaris, Toad can recycle them, which is why you play 3 Toads. And of course, it's obviously a very strong effect. And so those are the XYZ monsters that you're going to go into 90% of the time. The other ones do come up, but just not as often, but they are important that you play. And so next we have Cat Shark, 1 Daigusto Phoenix, 1 number 45 Crumble Logos. This guy's good for outing Jinzo and Denko Seka. 1 Sky Cavalry Centauria, good for dealing with big monsters. Gachi comes up sometimes. 1 LEVIAIR. I know you're thinking like, how do you make a rank 3? But if I do soul charge back a bunch of hand traps in some sense, then I can go into LEVIAIR. I get summon back like a banished swap frog and then combo off again. So that has come up for me before, which is why I included it, because there really aren't like a lot of really strong rank 2s, and so figured why not. 1 DOWNERD Magician, because sometimes you run out of material and like your Opabinias, you want something to do with them. This is a pretty good thing that you can do with them. And then finally 1 Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, because I do side XYZ universe. So for the side deck, we have 4 Kaijus. We have 1 Godarla, 2 Gameciel, and then 1 Kamungus the Sticky Icky. Then we have 2 Interrupted Kaiju Slumbers. And now one thing I really like about the Kaiju engine is that Gameciel is a aqua, and it's also water, and so that works with 2 of Toad's effects. So you can actually tribute Gameciel from your hand to negate your opponent's card or effects. And then when the Toad is sent to the graveyard, you can add Gameciel back to your hand to, you know, Kaiju people. So it has a lot of synergy with the deck actually, and it helps the deck go second. And then really most of the side decks for going second, because we do play 26 traps, and so going first isn't necessarily a problem. And so we have 3 Flying Seas, 2 Droll and Lockbirds, 1 Ghost Dash, and 1 Ghost Ogre. And the only traps in the side deck are the 2 XYZ universes. So again, those are going to help us summon our Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, which is very good against Zoodiacs, as well as the fact that you're clearing 2 of their XYZ monsters off the field. And it's important to note that XYZ universe sends them to the graveyard, it doesn't destroy them, and so your opponent's not going to be able to save them with like My Body or anything. So XYZ universe is again a very good tech card. But if you have any suggestions, definitely leave them in the comments section below. Again, I think Paleo is a really strong deck if you don't want to play Zoodiacs right now. I think it has a pretty good Zoodiac matchup. And this is also a pretty decent sleeper pick for Nats if you're going to be going to Nats. So if you have any other suggestions, definitely leave them in the comment section below. I think this is a strong sleeper pick for Nats. It has a good Zoodiac matchup. It's one of the best non-Zoodiac decks. And I think that you can really catch a lot of people off guard with this. And so as always guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
Remember that time, those